Stronger, stronger together. Stronger, stronger together.
Hey, it's Karel, and welcome to another episode of Karel Life in Segments. I like to start with just a little message from me before we get all the fun rolling. And this, of course, is Sam. This is Sam the man. Sammy belongs to my roommate, Steve Cabral, and Sammy is a chin, right? Aren't you a Japanese chin? That's what you are. Quite frankly, he's one of the most beautiful, ugly dogs in the world. His little eye and everything when he first looks at you, but he just steals your heart right out of your chest. He's little Sammy, and he's over here, and he's marvelous. And, of course, this right here is Miss Pippa, and she is the grand diva of Park Howard, and she is a rescue that I rescued now, 3 years ago? Was it 3? Oh, my goodness, it was 3 years ago. Now, Attila, he's somewhere around here. He's camera shy, and then there's Sadie, who is sleeping during the day, getting her beauty rest. And the reason I wanted to introduce you to the pets of Park Howard is because we are becoming a rental economy in America. If you look around, the surge in housing starts that was just announced, there has been a surge in housing starts, but those surges have been rental properties. It appears that renting is the way most everyone is going right now, quite frankly, because of the economy. And rents are soaring out of control. I don't know if you've looked around, but rents are awfully expensive. Now, you pay a lot of money, but what do you get? Well, in most places, you don't even get the chance to have one of these because there is no legislation about pets, meaning it's really left up to the landowner. And I'm wondering if it should be. I'm wondering if maybe we should start looking at legislation starting in our communities, in your own community. You know, here in Long Beach, Justin Rudd, he's the person that got us Rosie's Dog Beach. He also got it so we could have pets on the patio of restaurants in town. So one person can make a difference. And I'm wondering if in your community and every community, we shouldn't start legislation that says if someone wants to move into an apartment or a house and they are able to pay a decent deposit, it shouldn't be gouging, but a decent deposit, then you should have no qualms with them having a pet. Because guess what? Research now shows us you're going to be healthier if you have a dog or a cat. Your blood pressure is going to be lower. You're more apt to be active. We also know that a majority of homes that are robbed are homes that don't have pets. Pets are so complementary to humankind. They help us in so many ways. And yet there are landlords who say, no, you can't have any here. Well, that's wrong because they benefit us. And you might say, well, Karel, you could go live somewhere else. Maybe you can't. And how many of your friends have been stuck moving where they're up against a deadline and they can't find a place because why? Because they have a pet. That's wrong. If America is going to switch to a rental economy, and it appears that it's going to, then we have to start telling these landlords that pets are good for us and that with a decent deposit, no place should be off limits to them. All right? I won't live. I wouldn't live any place where I couldn't have Miss Pippa and Attila and everybody. I wouldn't. I would rather live in a tent with you. As you know, here on Pop Moto TV on Karel Life in Segments, I absolutely adore motorcycles. They've been in the news recently, and we're going to talk about this a little later. A motorist actually ran a motorcyclist off the road intentionally. And then didn't really care. We're going to talk about how that's not unusual, that motorcyclists don't just have to worry about the regular things. There's also motorists who, for whatever reason, hate us so much they want to run us off the road. So we're going to talk about that a little later. And as a biker, what you can do to not have that happen. He was passing illegally, I'm just saying. And of course, he was geared up and he walked away. His girlfriend, not quite so much, and she's in the hospital. So always wear your gear, always be protected. Now, this is Manny. He is my mainstay. He's an Aprilia Manna 850. But one of the beauties of being me is I get to ride a whole lot of bikes. And the Motorcycle Industry Council, it is their job to help promote safe motorcycling. And by the way, if you're thinking about motorcycling, I say this in every single segment. the Motorcycle Safety course, the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Every city across America, you can find a course. Before you get on two wheels, you be sure you take a course because you don't want to mess around. So today, we're going to get a Kawasaki Vulcan S. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is I'm getting older, and I have a back injury. And as part of the demographic of biking ages, the bike manufacturers have to make bikes that are hip and trendy, but also could work for somebody that maybe can't throw their leg over a big adventure bike. Maybe they have a back injury. If you have something like a back injury, check with your doctor, but motorcycling could still be for you. You've just got to choose the right bike. Now, Kawasaki is doing a thing where they're going ergonomic. They will help design their bikes for taller or shorter, fatter, skinnier, because it's not a one-size-fit-all world anymore. Now, Ty's here with us. You remember him from last season. He's here with us. He's going to tell us about the Kawasaki as soon as he unloads it from the Sprinter over here. So I'm going to help him get it out of there, and then we're going to talk about it and what some of the features it offers, particularly if you're a rider who's looking for something maybe a little lower to the ground, maybe something that fits a little better, maybe something not hard on the lower back. We're going to talk about that as soon as we unload it, but let's see what we got inside the van. It's like Christmas. We are with my friend Ty, and I never, ever say his last name on air because every single time I get it wrong, and I've been saying it now for almost half a decade, and yet I still get it wrong. Ty
Smith.
Yeah, okay. So I'm a moron. I always say Vander Hoodwink. I don't know why I say that. I just like that.
It's Ty Van Hooydonk.
See, but I do, okay. And Ty is with the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, Motorcycle Industry Council, and Discovery Rider Center. It is Ty's job to make sure that people are safe on motorcycles, that we advance safety on motorcycles, and of course his media liaison. So that every time you see a motorcycle in a TV ad or motorcycle on some sort of show, chances are they had something to do with it. Today he's bringing me the Kawasaki Vulcan S. And Ty, I'm getting older, and a lot of the motorcycling, I just looked at the stats, a lot of the demographics are an aging demographic. And, I'm not like the 1200 GS, throw my leg over this huge bike anymore. Is the motorcycle industry as a whole, are they responding to the fact that some of their demo, is actually aging but still wants to ride?
Absolutely. I think that motorcycling is responding to all demographics, actually. This motorcycle in particular, the Vulcan S, is good for experienced riders, people who want something maybe a little lower, lighter, but also this is a great second motorcycle for somebody who's just beginning.
Right. And it's a 650, which is, if you are just beginning, you should never go over a 650. I say start with lowers, 250. You agree with me on this, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Start small and work your way up if that's what you want to do. I mean, you can start small and stay small. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you're gonna learn a lot more about motorcycle control and handling. You're gonna feel a lot more comfortable starting out with something that you can really get your arms around and own that motorcycle, and then start to get larger and larger bikes.
Now, Kawasaki's doing a thing I saw on their website about ergonomics and really about designing the bike more towards the rider, because bikes pretty much have been one size fits all up until this point, and we're realizing that my ass is not the same ass as everybody else's ass. And the motorcycle industry is now realizing that as well. Also, there's taller people and then there's shorter people. There's women who traditionally are lighter and smaller. So I see now that they're responding to that need as well, as our bodies, we all have different bodies.
This bike in particular, when you go to a Kawasaki dealer that's set up for its Ergo Fit program, you'll actually work with the dealership and they will change the seat, they will change the foot pegs, and they will change the handlebar to suit you. They have 3 sizes, and they can mix and match too, depending on your exact needs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because the Harley guy just gave me a subscription to Weight Watchers, and that was pretty much it. That's why I don't ride those. Now, this is a 650, so a good second bike. This is now called a cruiser style, correct? This is how cruisers are looking nowadays?
This is a cruiser, and this is, a more modern take on a cruiser, It's got a little hint of bobber style to it, but it's got, alloy wheels as opposed to spokes, so it's got a little bit more modern touch to it. And that motor, the Kawasaki, it actually comes from a Ninja.
Oh, really?
So it's actually a rather high performance motor. It revs up really nicely. It's very smooth.
One of the things about this in particular that I really like is the sleek design and the sticker price. I went online. This is about brand new, like top of the line beauty that it is, right around $7,500.
Yeah, with ABS too, and that can be a nice feature for a lot of people out there. Anti-lock braking system.
Let's tell them why that's important on a motorcycle for those of you that might be interested. One of the ways, and this is I understand, you can correct me because I did this, as you remember, I high-sided and I didn't have ABS, and had I probably wouldn't have high-sided. One of the things that you are sort of subconsciously programmed to do when something happens, an emergency, is to hit that brake. And if you hit that brake too hard and too fast, you will just throw yourself off the bike. An ABS system, it won't let you mash on that brake and just hold it. It makes it do this sort of thing, correct?
Well, actually, the modern systems are quite smooth in operation. And yes, if something happens to pop in front of you, you want to make sure that nothing's tailgating you. But you can squeeze the brake lever and press down on the brake pedal as hard as you want, and those wheels will not lock up. Now, on this motorcycle, as with a lot of ABS bikes, you just want to make sure that the bike's straight up and down, and then squeeze and press for all you're worth, and the bike will stop a lot quicker and a lot safer than you can on your own.
You know what you told me once that I do all the time now, that I'm sure you've saved my life after I high-sided? I said, well, sometimes when I stop short, and you said, Karel, when you have to stop short, how about you lean back a little bit? And I do that now, and it changes everything.
Yeah, your body position is really important, and that's one of the things, too, that you're going to learn in an MSF Advanced Rider course. Good to take. Even if you have experience, go to this one-day course and really get some good coaching up. It doesn't end at the basic rider course. Keep on learning. The more you learn, the more fun it gets.
Well, speaking of fun, I'm going to go ride this. It's going to be mine for a while, so you're going to see it in the show and see me riding it around. We thank Kawasaki for throwing it over to Life in Segments so we can have it for Pop Moto TV. Ty, as always, thank you for bringing. You're like Santa Claus. You're my motorcycle Santa Claus.
At least you didn't call me an elf.
No, no. Well, and you didn't say ho, ho, ho. So I am Karel. I'm going to get on this bike because that's what you do when you have one. You got one, ride one. Thank you, of course, Ty.
It is the Karel Cast. I was just thinking. Now, tweeting says a lot about you, actually. But now there is research out of the UK that says it says a lot more about you than you might like people to know. What? Well, I'm going to tell you. But first I have to ask. I was thinking about this when we were going to do the story. How do you conjugate the word tweet? Today I tweet. Tomorrow I will tweet. Yesterday I rhymes with SWAT. I'm just saying. That would be the past tense, wouldn't it? Today I tweet. Yesterday I SWAT, but with a T. You have to think about these things in the modern age. Come on. So how do you tweet? For those of you that know what I'm talking about, okay? I know there's some of you that are going, Karel, I have no. And you know what? But I want to go on a little rant here. If you are not involved with social media in some way, you really are missing it. Now, I'm not saying you have to be one of these, suck all of your life and all of your time and post every single. I don't care what you had for lunch. I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care where you are eating it. I really do not care what you had for lunch. All right? And I don't need to see 8,347 selfies of you all throughout the day because you at a desk does not look remarkably different than you at the bar or you at the counter or you at the refrigerator. So stop with all the damn selfies. But that being said, they did some research about how your tweets reveal how much money you make. That's right. The way you tweet reflects your socioeconomic income. Now, let me tell you how they did this. They assigned a number to every kind of job, and they looked at the Twitter profiles of people who self-identified what they did for employment. They assigned that a number. That number, they took the average salary for that position. They then followed these people, thousands of them, and looked at their tweets. And what they found out was pretty remarkable. First of all, if you post, you are using Twitter as text messages to each other. People of lower incomes use Twitter as a way to talk to each other, and they do it with a very familial cadence and way of speaking, shorter words, things that you would text a friend. So poorer people, which are all of us, on Twitter at least, sort of see it as a way to talk to other people like us. And so we are very familiar with the way that we tweet. people who are of a higher economic status, those are the people who don't even touch the little iPhone they have. I mean, because really, I know that Cher does. Oh, I love her. I follow her. She's bat crap crazy. Her tweets you could spend nights reading. They're just hysterical. They're marvelous, and I'm sure that she types them. But I don't see Oprah, sitting there typing out her own tweets. But what they found out was that people of means, people of money, they tweet about professional things, okay? In other words, what they're doing, their endeavors, or something professional. And they also express more fear and that I found that very interesting, more fear and trepidation in their tweets than poor people do. Poor people express more A, vulgarity, and B, anger, lots of anger in the tweets of those that make less than 50,000 K a year. Lots of anger. Of the people above that, the wealthy, you don't see the anger. You see the professional, you see the news. They tweet a lot of news, those who are of the higher incomes, 150K a year or more. They tweet news, they tweet professional things. They do not tweet anything that's overly familiar. They don't usually swear, and they use proper English. The lower income individuals, they tend to use slang English or whatever language they're speaking, and they tend to display anger in their tweets, either at a situation or government or whatever the case might be. And they also, which is kind of interesting, do more romantic tweets. So looking for love in all the wrong places. So it's very interesting that if you look at people's Twitter and you follow their tweets, you can actually come up with a conclusion as to how much money they make based on the subject matter of their tweets. And it's really funny because what I found out about myself is I am a rich person's tweeting in a poor man's body. I tend to only tweet about the show or news things or stuff like that. But then there'll be other times I find myself tweeting, using the slang and the yo or what's up, WHAZZUP. He even knows how to spell that now because I use it so much. What's up? So I tend to do both. So I guess what it's saying is that I may be poor now. I someday will tweet like a rich person, or at least work for someone who does. What do you do? I am Oprah's tweeter. Thank you very much.
One of my favorite things to do while on vacation is eat. And room service is really one of my favorite things to do, and I'm not lying about that. It's always been one of my favorite things to do. And here in Ireland, at the Dean Hotel in beautiful Dublin, where the sun has just set, I got to thinking about food and America. Thinking a lot about America over here in Ireland. And the reason is, if you look here at this piece of chicken that I got served from room service, there are feathers still on this chicken, which means it's about as fresh as it can get. And since this is an island, I know that this chicken was alive somewhere in the last week on this island. Look at this butter. Look at that color. This butter comes from Ireland, from cow's milk that are out in the green fields here of Ireland. It's made here, it's served here. Everything on this plate was locally farmed and locally sourced. Now in our country, they're starting to do that, but for the rich. You go to a restaurant and they say, oh, all of our stuff is locally sourced, which means you're paying twice as much for it. Here in Ireland, their whole focus, whether it's in restaurants or whether it's in the grocery store, is giving you food that is locally sourced, locally produced, and actually good for you. Now, is everything they serve good? No, they serve a ton of potatoes over here. It's Ireland. However, let's take ketchup. The brand will go unnamed. If you read the back of the ketchup, the third ingredient is not high fructose corn syrup. Third ingredient is sugar, which means they don't use high fructose corn syrup here. In their Coca-Cola, in their Pepsi, they use sugar because high fructose corn syrup can't really get here and they don't grow a whole lot of corn in Ireland. So they use sugar. In our country, we are becoming obscene and obtuse. The world sees us as fat, as lazy, and as not motivated. And never more is it reflected than in what we choose to feed ourselves. We allow corporations to stuff chickens into pens smaller than this tray. There where they live a miserable, tortured life, we kill them, and they're already pumped full of so many hormones and antibiotics and this and that by the time you eat it, it's lucky there's any nutrition in it. And there's not. We are a nation of obese, starving people. We are a nation of fat people not getting the nutrients we need from our food because we don't even know where our food comes from. I know where this chicken comes from. It's on the menu. I could drive to the farm where this chicken lived and kiss the farmer and say, thank you for your chicken. Right now, you could be eating, watching me on television or on the web. If you are, where did that food come from? And don't say McDonald's, Jack in the Box, or whatever, or the restaurant down. Where did it actually come from? Did you know that in hamburger inside the grocery store, there can be the meat of 10 different cows? Do you know if you buy a package of 3 steaks, you think those steaks came from the same cow? Absolutely not. The stuff in the grocery store is turning us into a nation of diabetic, obese people. And look, I'm just to blame. We were here, you'll see a segment on Karel Life in Segments about me going to a cave. And I had to walk up 125 steps to come back up. It was horrifying. I mean, I never felt more fat or out of shape in my life. Part of that, food. Food. You know, we can't live without it. Air, food, water. Those are the 3 things. Any river in Ireland is drinkable. Except the Liffey. Outside of the Liffey, any river in Ireland is drinkable. We were traveling in the West in Lisdoonvarna for the outing. We passed a river. It had some discoloration in it. And they made sure to tell us that the discoloration was a natural thing from the rocks, but that the water is completely drinkable. Freshwater mussels will only grow in the absolute most pristine water. They're on the menu everywhere here. People, look, it's not brain surgery. Garbage in, garbage out. It's an old computer saying, garbage in, garbage out. We are fed garbage and we are turning to garbage. How about we take a lesson from the Irish and make good, affordable, locally sourced food accessible to all? How about when we build high rises, we build one that's a vertical garden? They have them in other countries. How about in neighborhoods across America, we start farms so people can have access to a tomato instead of a handgun? People, wake up. We're dying. It's not even a joke anymore. And it all starts on the plate. What you eat and where it comes from. Now, if you're grossed out because there's little feathers, you're just ridiculous, because guess what? I'm thinking, wow, how lucky am I to have locally sourced food? But think about it next time and ask people. I want you to ask people when you're at a restaurant and you order and you say, I'll have the half a chicken. Ask them, where does your restaurant get the chicken from? They're going to tell you a distributor. Oh, Newport Meats or this or that other thing. That's not an answer. That's a corporation. That's a corporate name. You know, ask them where. Where did the chicken grow up? Did it grow up in China? Because now, and I'm not making this up, the Republicans have allowed our manufacturers of chickens to kill the chickens in America, send them to China for processing, and send the chicken back. That chicken will have more frequent fire miles than you will by the time you eat it. Is that something you want to eat? I mean, really. Now I gotta go. This is great. I'm gonna have some. Sorry, little bird, but you were tasty.
It is the Karelcast. I am Karel, and it is the season of new beginnings. October, November, December, January, February, March. It's all the season of new beginnings. Either it's New Year's resolutions or spring is in the air and planting new things, whatever the case might be. It is the season of new beginnings. And a while back, Joe Biden gave a speech and he talked about, rebuilding America. And there's the never-ending political campaign in this country. And all of the candidates, they talk about rebuilding America and, moving forward with America. And when I think about that, I really think about it as all we're really talking about is like New Year's resolutions for America, or when you have a spring garden, things that you want to plant in the spring to make sure that they will then harvest, come later in the year. And the first thing that they talked about is optimism. And we have a real optimism problem in this country. Our founders put the pursuit of happiness into one of the documents, but they didn't ever say that you're actually going to get it. They simply said that you can pursue it. And remaining optimistic in this country at this time has been very challenging. I don't know if it's been very challenging for you, but it has for me. Particularly if it's past the holiday seasons. A lot of you may have spent more money than you had. If it's before the holiday season and you're watching this, then a lot of you may be dreading it because you don't have the money to do what you want to do. Whatever the case, money is certainly in the picture. Maybe you want to start your new year or your spring or whatever it might be with a new job because you really hate the job that you're in. You know, and you're looking for some optimism, and you're looking for some way to make things better. That's what New Year's resolutions are all about. That's what spring is all about. That's what this forward looking is all about. What if you started right now? Then come January 1st, or if this was something you wanted to do for spring, come March, or if this was something you were going to do over the summer, come June, you would have already been so far ahead of that curve. You know, optimism, it's natural. It's this time of year. That's just the natural thing. But optimism on its own, it's not enough. You actually have to go and you have to do something. And so as we look at this time of optimism and this time of resolutions, I want you to do a few things. First of all, I want you to remember that you don't have to wait for anything. I know that with those of you out there like myself that suffer with a food problem, you always you'll wait. It'll be a Friday and you'll say, okay, I'm going to start a diet on Monday and I'm going to prep over the weekend. And over the weekend, you just eat everything that ain't had down. You know, it's like, oh, there must be some redeeming quality in wood. Termites eat it, what the hell? And you just start eating, you know, because that's just the way that you are. You put it off until Monday instead of saying, no, I'm going to start today. For those of you that may not feel as healthy, you know, you look into a gym, you look into a schedule, instead of just getting your ass up and walking around the block, you look into a whole bunch, you know, you're optimistic, you want to do something, you want to resolve to do something, but you don't start it. Or you bog yourself down in the logistics of it, and then it just doesn't happen. There are people that tell me, I want to quit smoking. I say, then quit. You know, my late husband Andrew quit in a day. He smoked an entire pack of cigarettes and used the same ashtray, and then he took his fingers and he wet them and he would lick the ashes until he puked. He never smoked again after that day. I bet you guys didn't know that's how Andrew quit smoking. That is how he said Kurt Vonnegut did it that way, and so that's why he wanted to not, I don't know if that's someone to emulate or whatever, but that's what he did. So remember this, you're worth starting a resolution today. You're worth starting now. Don't wait till New Year's, till spring. Do it now. If you're worth it then, you're worth it now.